Hello and welcome to round 3 of the Formula 3 Development Series, or the AMSOz Development Series. We are at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve here in Montreal. Tough little semi-street circuit. And I've just ticked over, well, we're in qualifying right now. We've got Turmo currently. We've got two drivers on a time lap at the moment, with Turmo being the fastest on 25.9 in the first split, 0.5 faster than Wayne Whitmore. Turmo having to dodge a little bit of track, runs a little bit wide there at the turn 7 and 8 chicane. Sorry, 8 and 9 chicane. Tucks it in at the hairpin. Lost about 0.3 to Whitmore, but he was 0.5 faster in the first split, so it's going to be tight between those two. In fact, we'll jump up to Whitmore and see what lap time he produces. Coming through the final chicane, nice exit. Now, the fastest time we saw in practice was a 34.0, and Whitmore 34.697. So not a bad lap time from Whitmore. Now let's cut back to Turmo. He's come out of the final chicane. He sets 34.8, so just losing a little bit more time to Whitmore. But still, not a bad lap, 34 around here. We've got Luke Joyner using a lot of curb through the final chicane there, which in these cars is quite risky. They don't handle curbs and bumps too well. He's going to set a 37.5. River Whisper setting a 37.1 in front of him. Brownie setting a 38.9. And we've got Cracker out there, 3.6 off in the middle split. But we'll stay with him because he's the only one on a meaningful lap at the moment. Still got 5.5 minutes to go. Fastest man in practice was Steve Bolger, incredibly quick 34.0. The Whitmore setting his personal best, and he was second fastest of drivers in the server as well, but he set his personal best in qualifying. Cracker crosses the line 39.0. I think we'll see him improve as the night goes on. It's a latecomer in practice. We got Whitmore entering the pit lane. Luke Joyner also on an in-lap as well. No one else out there on track at the moment, so hopefully someone jumps out there at some point. So I think what we might do, I might just go to the circuit up here and just go over the circuit there. As you can see, 4.361 kilometers here in Montreal. Got 3 races once again this evening, and 14 turns. The big areas tonight in these cars, again, it's going to be about traction and not overusing the curbs. You don't want to unsettle the cars here. The rear tyres can get overheated, and when they get overheated, they get a bit screwy on exit, and they do snap pretty quickly. So that's something to look out for. The exit of turn 2. That's going to be, we have seen a number of drivers spin in practice. You can get a little bit greedy in the second chicane, taking a lot of curb as well. So we could see drivers spin there. The exit of turn 7 there, leading onto that back straight. That's another one where traction is going to play an issue. It's very easy to outbrake yourself at turn 8 at the following chicane. And there also is a very high curb on the inside that drivers will have to be wary of. And then the hairpin again, you can outbrake yourself, and you can also spin it up out on the marbles on the outside. So that's another thing to look out for. And then of course you've got the final chicane and the wall of champions. Having done laps in these cars in practice just before, can vouch that it is very easy to outbrake yourself, even by a metre or two. and just losing the back end or trying to fight the car on entry, and you end up pointing backwards into that wall of champions a la Jacques Villeneuve. He did that a couple of times, just losing the back end, and as did Michael Schumacher as well as Damon Hill. Also very easy to overuse the massive sleeping policeman curbs there as well. I think Luke Joyner got away with it on his lap. Anyway, we do have a driver out there. That is Steve Bolger out there on the circuit, so we'll cut to him. There he is. In fact, we'll ride on board. Coming to turn 1. He brakes about 75 metres, down to third gear. Down to second for turn 2. I personally use first. A little tentative on the throttle on the exit. Down to third gear, braking about 50 metres there for turns 3 and 4. A little hesitant again. Looks like he's going to sail into the wall there for a moment. He's going to brake at about 100 metres. No, about 90 or so. He's up in the first split now in his second gear. Don't really want to use the curbs either of those corners there. They will unsettle the car, but he's had a nice exit. Coming up now to the turn 8-9 chicane. Want to brake around about the bridge. He's braking very late there. He's ran a little bit wide there. It's going to cost him time on the exit. He hasn't hit the wall, and I don't believe he's got a track cut either. Down now into the hairpin. He can brake fairly late here. He brakes at about 80, 90 metres, and as you can see, he's lost time in the middle split. And he would have been up if he had not made that mistake at the chicane there at turn 8 and 9. So now he's got a little bit of work to do coming into the final chicane here, turn 13 and 14. That little kink back there is actually a turn, as is a little curve after the hairpin. Second gear. Not a bad run through there. Hits the limiter though. Will cost him a little bit of time. Still pretty decent run through there, and in fact I reckon he's going to steal it, and he does. Half a tenth between himself and Whitmore, so he found about a tenth of a second, or about 2/10 of a second, just to nick that right at the end there from Wayne Whitmore. So Steve Bolger in pole position once again, and we've got Brendan Ross and Ricky Slick out there. As Brendan Ross getting his Formula D on. Interesting actually if he sticks in the slipstream. Looks like he's just lifting off a little bit from Ricky Slick. It's a bit weird because you probably want a bit of a slipstream, but at the same time it's easy for a driver to make a mistake in the first and middle sector, which could compromise your lap. So jump up to the Southern sensation Ricky Slick. We'll see how he conducts his lap. Second gear for turn 1. First gear, turn 2. Using all the resin, a little bit more there. The exit. 50 metres down to second gear. The second chicane here. Much better exit than Steve Bolger. Interesting to see their first split times here. Up by 2/10. He brakes at about 75 metres. He's outbroke himself, so he's going to cost himself time. But also, Bolger did make a mistake on his lap as well. So that might sort of cancel each other out here. Ross 2/10 down over Ricky Slick in the first split. So Slick gets this second chicane. Oh, a little bit wide there, just clipping the wall there. And he don't think he would have lost too much time. To the second split, and there he is. He's still made up a little bit of time. So without that mistake, he'd be well up. Doesn't gas it up on the exit of the hairpin, so he's at a decent lap. And Brendan Ross, a hair faster than the second than Ricky Slick, so he did make a mistake, but he's got to find more time in his final sector. But these two are looking good at the moment. Coming to the final chicane, Ricky Slick. Bolger did have a great run through here. Slick not using as much curb, but still nice and smooth through here. And he's going to set a competitive lap time, 1:34.5. So he goes to pole for a moment. And Brendan Ross lost a bit of time in that final sector. He goes to 5th on a 34.9. So fairly close. Really, the top 5 cars all within 0.4 of a second. And yeah, just looking at that final sector there for Brendan Ross, he was about the same pace as Turmo in front of him, but nowhere near. He was about 4 tenths off what Bolger and Whitmore managed, and 2 tenths off what Slick managed. So that's something to look out for in the race, with Ricky Slick being a couple tenths slower in that final chicane area, because I don't think he lost it at the hairpin, so it would have all been that final chicane where he lost a little bit of time to Bolger and a little bit of time to Whitmore, but he's a lot cleaner throughout most of the lap, so that's why he earned pole position. And in fact, he set his personal best as well in that qualifying session. So it is a great time to do it. Anyway, we'll take a short break so I conduct the driver's briefing, but we shall be back soon. Alright, and welcome back. We've got about just under 5 minutes left in the warm-up session. Driver's briefing has been conducted, and we do have some drivers out there doing some shenanigans, so I won't cut to that and encourage that behaviour. But I do believe there was some driver going backwards over the start-finish line. So you see, I think that's Brendan Ross, at least one of those orange and grey cars there, orange and silver. While we're here, might as well bring up the championship standings. I can, if it wants to bring it up, that is. No, it doesn't seem to want to. Give me a second. There we are. So, oh, sorry, that's after round one. Let me just have to go to live races and check it out actually, because I don't believe I've updated it. Silly me. Actually, no, I do believe I have. Let's have it here. Just give me a moment. Well, do ignore the after round one part, but it's after 2 rounds. And as you can see, Ricky Slick leading the championship on 120 points. Followed by Brendan Ross on 97. Luke Joyner hasn't been the fastest out there, but he's just he's been consistent and he gets results in every race. That's why he finds himself in 3rd position in the championship. Wayne Whitmore, he showed pace at Monza, but uncharacteristically made a number of mistakes, and in a few of those races found himself well down the field. And we've got River Whisper there, 69 points. Turmo on 57. Gary Neville on 56, who is not here this evening. And then we've got Steve Bolger, who started off at Monza. I believe he put it on pole on one of those races, and was leading for a considerable part of one of those races. But he, for a couple of those, but he made a couple of mistakes, which cost him dearly in the end. I do believe he had a retirement or two in the opening round. I can't remember exactly what happened to him at Imola, but I don't think he had the greatest run. And then we've got Cracker on 24 and Lime Mitch on 18. Lime Mitch, who was actually quite quick at Imola, but just was very, very erratic, and it cost him a lot of points. I believe, just having a look, yeah, he had a retirement in a couple of those, in one of those races, but and he wasn't present at Monza, so that's why he finds himself on 18. And going back to the times, we had Ricky Slick and Brendan Ross both retire from the first race of the season, and Whitmore taking the win, but Whitmore retiring in the reverse grid race of that first round there at Monza. And Steve Bolger, he managed a second, a DNF and a second at Monza, but he wasn't present at Imola, so that's why he's so far down and only on 40 points. But yeah, going back to Luke Joyner, yeah, he's just been very, very solid. 16 points, 16 points, 14 points, 12, 16 and 12. So, as I said, he's not the fastest out there, but he's snagged a few 3rd places out there just through consistency, not really making mistakes. And I do believe this evening he's had more practice here than what he has at, I think, at both the previous events at Monza and Imola. So that's something to look out for. Is that might be a little bit better prepared this time out, but still, he does get better as the night goes on, while other drivers seem to plateau, so that is one thing to look out for. And Whitmore, he'll be hoping to just find a little bit more consistency, as we saw at Monza, and as you see in a lot of these Monday Night Series, he has got the pace to contend and to win races, but sometimes he just makes the odd mistake here and there, or especially towards the start of races, and he has to fight back. So that's something he'll want to fix up and amend. Let's just try and go over the qualifying results once again. I've got about 15 seconds left in the warm-up session. And we have Ricky Slick will be starting on pole, and then we've got Steve Bolger, Wayne Whitmore, Turmo and Brendan Ross. They're all covered by under 0.4 of a second. Gap between Ricky Slick and Brendan Ross is 0.393 of a second. Then there is a bit of a gap to River Whisper, who's 2.6 seconds off the pace. Luke Joyner 3 seconds off the pace. Brownie 4.4. Cracker 4.5, and Miles didn't manage to set a timed lap. I do believe he did go out on track, but he must have made a mistake, got a track cut, or had an accident. So that's why he was unable to set a time. But that will be the grid. Only got 10 drivers out there this evening, but should be pretty interesting with the top 5 separated by cigarette paper. And I think we'll see River Whisper and Luke Joyner probably improve, and probably see Cracker improve as well, because Cracker is pretty handy as well once he gets going. Anyway, it has ticked over to the race session, first of our 12 lap races, with 2 of them being decided by a qualifying session, and the final one being decided by reverse grid from the qualifying order of the second qualifying session. So just waiting for the drivers to form up on the grid. See this circuit used in the Formula 1 World Championship. NASCAR did go here for a couple of years, and I believe IndyCar went here for a short while as well, but I don't believe Formula 1 is one of the few places to use the circuit every year, which is a bit of a shame, because it is a pretty interesting circuit to drive. It does offer a bit of a challenge to the drivers. Slight mistake, and as you can see, the walls are very, very close. It's away we go. Ricky Slick will lead us away on the formation lap after setting a 1 minute 34.546. And Steve Bolger will be looking to get his championship back on track after setting a 34.636, but he set a 1 minute 34.0 in practice beforehand, so he was one to look out for. Whitmore, just like Ricky Slick, he set a personal best in qualifying, setting a 1:34.697, and he'll start on the second row in third position. Alongside him will be Termo in P4. He's been finding a bit of pace of late, and we've got Brendan Ross, who always seems to be in the game in these Monday night series, so he's another one to look out for, even though he is starting in P5. And then we've got River Whisper starting in P6 on the third row, with Luke Joyner alongside him. And then in P8 we've got Cracker, Glenn Miles starting in 9th place. Who is that intent? Someone's out of position, so something's happened on the formation lap. No, Brownie has left the game. Brownie has left the game. So that's unfortunate, but there is 2 other races tonight, so hopefully he does come back in and joins for the second qualifying session. He's able to race in the other couple races, but unfortunately he'll be missing this first one this evening, so that's a bit of a shame. So this first race will only be contested by 9 drivers. So the drivers now coming out of the turn 10 hairpin. That little kink there is actually recognised as a turn on most track maps as turn 11, and then the little kink that that Ricky Slick's about to go through right there, that's actually turn 12. But in pretty much, well, in every race car, I would say, in dry weather conditions, neither of those are really much to think about, both being flat out. And as you can see, drivers ferociously warming their tyres up, because you really do need to warm your tyres up in these things, because on cold tyres, as you saw in the F3 series last year at Automobilista Australia, cold tyres, cold brakes in these cars, they are an absolute handful. So drivers listen to drivers' briefings and warming their tyres up, trying to get to a workable range for the start of the race, because you don't want a big accident into turn 1. Alright, so drivers now forming up on the grid. A few of the drivers taking a little bit long, but unfortunately there's a gap where Brownie would have been. He would have started in P8 in front of Cracker and Glenn Miles. This one must be out of position, because no, here we go. So So 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. Away we go. Steve Bolger got a fantastic jump and he will take the lead. No, he won't take the lead. Slick gets a better second bite of traction and Turmo looks like he's having a look up the inside. So Turmo up to third, but he's lost the back end. A little bit of contact there between Ross and Whitmore. And Whitmore, unfortunately, he's been turned around from Ross. So I don't think Whitmore will be too pleased with that one. There's no need to cause that contact, but he just kept his foot in it and that's sent Whitmore around. But at the front, Ricky Slick holds on for now, and Bolger, he's got Turmo right behind him. So the front three got a bit of a gap now over Brendan Ross. And we've got Luke Joyner, who's up 2 spots after one of them being a spin, unfortunately, for Wayne Whitmore. So his disaster of his season continues. And Turmo is right in the slipstream of Steve Bolger. That is another thing to look out for around this track. A lot of long straights. Slipstreams in these cars are quite large, so it might be difficult for these guys to break away, but if you do break away, you'll be in a pretty decent position. So Ricky Slick will be hoping he can sort of get a little bit away, but I think he's lost a bit of time at the hairpin and at the turn 8 and 9 chicane there, because he did have, looked like about 1.5 second lead. But after the hairpin, Bolger has closed in, and he'll close in even more now, getting a little bit of a tow down into the final chicane. So there it is. That's the entire field. Once again, Bolger has closed in a little bit more now. Ricky Slick. What will it be when they cross the line? Half a second now. So it was about 1.1 seconds. But Turmo's got a good run out of the chicane. And he'll send it up the inside. And Turmo now up into P2. And Bolger, oh, a bit of a twitch now out of turn 2. But I think he's going to be far enough ahead now into turns 3 and 4. And he is to hold on to P2 for now. And he'll be hoping probably that, well, Ricky Slick will be hoping that Turmo keeps those slides on and keeps battling away with Bolger to help him get away. As you can see, there's Ricky Slick, Turmo, Bolger very wide there. And then Brendan Ross is closing in as well. Then we've got Luke Joyner, River Whisper, Cracker. And Glenn Miles is now behind Wayne Whitmore. And we've got River Whisper and Luke Joyner side by side into turn 8. Joyner goes defensive, a little bit of a slide on in the middle. And Whisper is going to try and get him on the switchback, but he's not going to be close enough. At least for now, but he will be close enough to have a dive into the hairpin. He's having a look, shows the nose. Brakes very late. It's gone wide there. That's going to allow Luke Joyner to get him back on the switchback, but they're going to go side by side down the straight. The Casino Straight is one of the names for it, and Luke Joyner will take that position back. At the front, though, Ricky Slick's got about a second, well, it was about a second ahead of Turmo. And Turmo, oh, big slide from Turmo through turn 14 there. Obviously wanting to be a member of the Wall of Champions there. And that's given Bolger a fairly solid run. But he's not going to be close enough into turn 1. And that's allowing Ricky Slick just edge away. A couple tenths there. And Ross may have made a slight mistake because he was closing in on Bolger and Turmo. But he's dropped back just a little bit. But it looks like the guys in second and third, Turmo and Bolger, do look a little bit faster than Ricky Slick throughout most of the lap. But they're just making a little micro mistakes, which is allowing Ricky Slick to sort of just stay in that 1 second plus, 1 second to 1.5 second range. And just allowing him to just stay out of that slipstream range and out of harm's way, at least for now. Ricky Slick a bit wide there through turn 9. Carrying too much speed through turn 8. That's going to allow... I think it will allow Turmo to close in a little bit, but it doesn't look like he's closed in too much. The gap at about 1.1 seconds. Oh, I think we've had. I think Bolger's made a little bit of a mistake there because he was a bit closer. So we'll just have a look on board, see what's happening here into the hairpin. Oh yes, a bit of a slide on the entry, and very slow on the exit. So that's allowed Brendan Ross to close in a little bit. Oh, no, again, big slide from Turmo, and he avoids the wall. He's 2 laps in a row where he's wanted to put himself into the Wall of Champions at 34.8 from Ricky Slick. So he's driving quite solidly at the moment. But the guys behind him all keep making these little mistakes, even though they are slightly faster, at least in other portions of the track. Because in the first sector, Turmo on the last lap was 2/10 faster. It's only about half a tenth slow in the middle sector, but lost it all. Well, lost a lot of it again. See, just that last chicane, he uses that curve at turn 6. And that's unsettled the car, and now Steve Bolger must be licking his lips, thinking the time is 9. It's not going to be close enough though into turn 8. Just shows his nose. And once again, Turmo all over the curbs, both sides of the chicane. That's going to give Bolger a good run into the chicane, and Turmo looks like he's going to go defensive, decides against it. I think he might just want to sit back for a little while, and Bolger up the inside, but runs a little bit wide. Turmo takes the position back. Well, they're going to go side by side. They will be side by side. So right forward, Brendan Ross, and for now, Turmo holds on. Bolger's going to have another go now into the final chicane. This is allowing Ricky Slick to break 2 seconds in front now. Bolger decides against it. Turmo doesn't lose the back end at the final chicane this time. But these three starting to form a bit of a pack, and that's allowing Ricky Slick just edge away. So 35-5 for Turmo on that last lap, and 34.9 for Ricky Slick. So Slick looking nice and comfortable, and Turmo sliding it out once again at exit of turn 2. It's done that a couple of times, and he's got Steve Bolger all over the back of him, and that's also drawing Brendan Ross closer together as well. Behind them, River Whisper has got past Luke Joyner, and Luke Joyner a little bit too much gas, and that sends him around, and thankfully doesn't just didn't think about doing the old spinneroo there to get him back around, but thought better of it as that Cracker was approaching. So Cracker, that moves Cracker up a position. Wayne Whitmore recovering now up to P6. This is 16 seconds off the Ross, Bolger and Turmo battle. So barring some large mistakes, he's probably not going to catch those guys, but if he keeps pushing, he's a chance to got about just under 4 seconds to River Whisper in front. And looking at the last lap times, Whitmore 37.4 compared to a 36.5 for River Whisper, but I think Whitmore was balked a little bit from, or possibly balked from a couple of the cars that he was battling. And well, we've cut back to this battle, and Brendan Ross has got himself in front of Steve Bolger now. So we'll just watch as they go through the final chicane here. Oh, and Ross all sideways and Bolger all over the curve. So we'll just cut back to a replay here. So it looks like, oh yes, another slide at the hairpin for Bolger. He managed to save it, didn't lose the bat, didn't completely spin it, but that little half spin allowed Brendan Ross to get that position. Ricky Slick now 2.7 in front of Ricky Slick 2.7 in front of Turmo now. And it looked like Turmo got a track cut in the middle sector as well. If I had to hazard a guess, he would have done that at the turn 8-9 chicane. Because it's very difficult to do it at this one here. All the top four, 26.3 in the first sector this time around. And that gap looks like it's come down possibly a little bit, or it might just be my eyes playing. Well, it has come down by a tenth, but must be just be my eyes playing up. And Ross sideways out of the hairpin. That said though, still I think just within slipstream range of Turmo in front, but it's going to be very negligible from that distance. It sort of dropped Steve Bolger behind. Well, both of them getting a slide on, and I think Ross just grazed the wall, and Turmo, he's got a massive tank slapper once again on the exit of final chicane. 34.9, so almost a PB for Brendan Ross, and 35.3 for Turmo. But once again, a 34.9 for Ricky Slick. Ricky Slick very, very consistent. It's either a very low 35 or it's a 34.9, I should say. His personal best being a 34.8. So he's pretty much matching his personal best or getting within a tenth or two every lap. So he's been ultra consistent so far. Well, these guys just making these slight mistakes, which is allowing Slick to get away. Bolger, who was very quick towards the end of practice and would have probably had pole barring a mistake here at turn 8 and 9. Probably would have had pole position. And he's looked a bit rough in this race. Hasn't had a great run. As you see, looks like Turmo and Ross now coming up to lap traffic into Glenn Miles. Turmo putting it up the inside and Glenn Miles getting out of the way, so it doesn't look like he holds either of them up, which is good to see. So Brendan Ross is definitely within slipstream range. I don't think he's going to be close enough to make a pass, but in fact, no, he might be. If he's brave, no, decides better against it. Does show the nose though. Looks like he's trying to set up a move into turn 1, and once again, Turmo using too much curve, loses the back end and on the grass there. And Brendan Ross looks like he's going to try and no, decides against it again. So you see a little bit of a lock-up from Ricky Slick in front there. Once again, Turmo a little bit of squeal on coming out of turn 2. Was a little bit conservative at the moment. Isn't really pressing Turmo as hard as what other drivers might. Perhaps doesn't want to cause an incident, or perhaps just saving his tyres for the last couple of laps. Hasn't had a good first sector though, and he's dropped a lot of time to Turmo in front. Still edged away a little bit from Bolger. Down the field, Wayne Whitmore has got past River Whisper for P5. They were close together at the split, but it looks like River Whisper must have made a mistake, because it's not 8/10 of a second anymore. It's a lot more than that. It's about 4 or 5 seconds now. Whitmore, aside from that, what we can gather, aside from that spin at turn 2, that obviously Brendan Ross sent him around, unfortunately, but aside from that, it looks like he's been fairly consistent, because he has closed the gap up to Steve Bolger in front. The gap to Ross and Turmo has remained around about the same, and that's obviously, pardon me, despite having to battle to get past River Whisper, and may have been held up from Glenn Miles, don't know. 37-0. Whitmore that time around. And oh, it looks like Bolger's made a mistake. He has, so let's see what's going on here. So turn 1, I think he's just gassed it up out of turn 2 and spun the back around, and Ross almost did it in front of us, and yeah, too much throttle and too much steering input with worn rear tyres, and around he goes. So that's him out of the battle now for 3rd place. Might give Whitmore a bit of incentive to keep pushing as well. Speaking of pushing, Brendan Ross pushing the limits of the circuit there. Grazing the wall on the exit of turn 9. 1.4 seconds between himself and Turmo. Looks like his chance might have dissipated to get past him. Looks like Turmo is a little bit quicker at this stage of the race. They were right together just a lap and a half, 2 laps ago. It looks like now Turmo is edging away. That said though, it looked like Ross very much quicker than Turmo through the final game. Just understandable, Turmo probably a bit conservative through there. In fact, he's lost half his gap that he had. It's about 1.7 and it's now 8/10 of a second, so that's a lot of time in that one chicane. It's just Ross very wide. He's tempting fate there. Holds on for now. So this battle's almost over. Looks like Ross is continuing to push. Turmo a bit uneasy for the final chicane, which he has struggled in throughout this race. It looks like Ricky Slick on that last lap must have had a track cut because he doesn't have a lap time next to his name on live races. And with Turmo setting a 36.7 and a 35.6 for Brendan Ross. So as the race has gone on though, it looks like Brendan Ross has just reined in his right foot a little bit. He's a little bit smoother on the exit of a lot of these corners. It's paying dividends. So, Turmo very wide in the mid-corner at the hairpin there at Le Pingle. It's going to allow Ross to close in just a little bit. He might have a sniff of a slipstream, but it's not going to affect him too much, I don't think, into the final chicane. So this is where he made up a lot of time last lap around. It'll be interesting to see if he does it again. It's certainly a much better line. Turmo missing the first curve, just running a little bit wide and compromises his exit. So that gap once again is closed right up, 0.6 of a second in one corner. And oh, there's a lock up from Turmo. He's ran wide, and it's going to allow Ross to close right up now. It might even get him on the switchback here. Little bit of a slide from Turmo, another slide, and Ross had to get out of it. Ross now right in that battle. Misses the apex at turn 3, and that's going to allow Turmo to get away. Once again, a little bit of a slide from Turmo. He's going to have to take it easy because he might lose the back end one too many times and send it around or allow Brendan Ross through. These two giving us something to cheer about right at the end of this race. Once again, another slide there from Turmo, and Brendan Ross is going to have, well, he's going to have a decent slipstream into the hairpin. Turmo, it looks like he's going defensive. No, pulls back out onto the racing line. Wants to get optimal run through the hairpin and down the main straight, but a massive slide on the exit from Ross. He holds it somehow, but his rear tyres aren't going to like that too much, and that's going to give Turmo a bit of breathing room to start the next lap. That said though, I still think the gap probably around about second, just over a second. We have seen Ross being significantly faster through this final chicane. Again, right on board. No, Turmo looks like he got it right this time, but I think Ross did gain just a tenth or two though. 37.4 for Ross on that lap, 37.1 for Turmo. A 35.8 for Ricky Slick, who was taking it easy for a couple laps, but on that last lap there, extends his lead. We're on the final lap now. So if Ross is going to have a go, it'll be this lap. See, look behind Turmo. Very, very easy on the throttle out of turn 7. The rev limiter there, just missing the shift a little bit. As you can see, Ross closing in with the slipstream. And for Turmo, he's going to want to drive these. Well, he's got to think of the exit, but he hasn't had a good one there. Bit of a slide, too much curb. Turmo goes defensive into the hairpin. Ross going to try and go around the outside. Might get him on the switchback. He's going to try it. Will get it. So both drivers on the exit. Once again, too much throttle, but Ross is ahead just at the moment. He's going to have the inside line, but it is going to be a drag into the final chicane. So who will get? Will Ross hold on? Yes, he will. Does brake late, but he brakes too late. And massive slide on the exit and almost puts Turmo into the wall. Ricky Slick wins the race, but it's going to be a drag that Brendan Ross will just hold on to P2. Turmo had held P2 for a majority of the race, but couldn't quite hold on, running a little bit too wide at the hairpin. And it looked like Ross may have lost it there a couple times, getting that big slide on the hairpin. Got Steve Bolger at P4 and not happy. He's ended up on his side without a rear wing. Whitmore recovers to P5 in the end. We've got River Whisper will cross the line in P6. Cracker will finish in P7. And Luke Joyner going very slowly. I don't know if he's out of fuel. They're just taking it easy, but he will be the last of the finishers on the last lap. Just a Cracker doing some doughies, which is what we like to see. And as Luke Joyner finishes in 8th, Glenn Miles, once he crosses the start-finish line, if he hasn't already, will be classified in P9. So all drivers finishing. Should Glenn Miles get through the final chicane. But just to recap once again, Ricky Slick converting from pole position. Got a little bit of a lead early on at 1.5 seconds. And while it looked like Steve Bolger and Turmo were that little bit quicker, Ricky made less mistakes. In fact, I don't really remember him making any mistakes, and he was able just to edge away in the beginnings, and then once Turmo Bolger started battling, it opened up that gap a little bit more, and then as their tyres fell away, Ricky Slick made, well, as I said, made no mistakes, while Turmo and Bolger did make a couple more mistakes, and eventually Bolger going around at turn 2. And Brendan Ross stealing P2 right at the end. On the last lap at the hairpin with getting side by side. He had to go around the outside initially at the hairpin, but with Turmo out braking himself, it allowed Ross to get the switch back. And even though he did try to ruin it by having a terrible exit and getting all kinds of sideways, he did manage to hold on down the back straight, side by side. Once again, tried to throw it away by out braking himself at the chicane, but was able to balk Turmo the final part of the chicane, and then again almost tried to lose it by losing the back end coming out of the chicane, but that forced Turmo to go wide and to slow down, and he just managed to hold on with the drag to the line. Turmo, pretty solid job, one of his best weekends of the season so far, finishing in P3, and then Bolger in 4th. He'll be disappointed once again, just that consistency lacking, but the pace is certainly there if he puts it all together. And then Whitmore, he'll be hoping to avoid being spun around this time around and hoping to, well, make it a 4-5 car battle there at the front of the grid. Anyway, we'll just take a short break, but we shall be back for qualifying in a couple minutes. Alright, and welcome back for the second qualifying session of round 3 of the Automobilista Australia Formula 3 Development Series. We've ticked over to qualifying, just waiting for the light to go green at the end of the pit lane and for the drivers to set their one and only hot lap for the second race here in Montreal. It was a pretty interesting first race with not so much for Ricky Slick out in front. He did manage to drive nice and smoothly without mistake, but the battle for P2 was hotly contested all race long, with Brendan Ross just pipping it at the end. But we did have Turmo holding onto that position for quite a long time. And we had Steve Bolger there, who did have the pace to certainly take it, but once again, just little mistakes costing him. And I think this time out, should we see Whitmore not get spun around on the first lap, I think we'll see him battling it out for P2 as well. Probably battle, the top 5 really all do have a shout with taking victory. I think it's just all going to be about consistency and putting it all together. That is the big thing, and that's what this series is all about, with no driver aids being available. Anyway, we have ticked over to qualifying, and we do have a couple drivers out there, so we'll jump to them. Jump over to Brownie, who it's good to see. He has made it back, and hopefully doesn't have a disconnect at the start once again, which is what happened to him at the start of race 1 there. In the Red Bull liveried F3. Also got Steve Bolger out there. Who else have we got? Got Wayne Whitmore and River Whisper, as well as Turmo. So we've got a lot of drivers out there, nice and early. So who will be the first one to start a time lap? Looks like Whitmore maybe. Indeed it will be. So we'll follow Wayne Whitmore around for a lap around the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. For a qualifying lap, your lap actually starts here at the final chicane. You mess that up and you're going to lose it. You're going to cost yourself if you get a bad exit, a couple tenths at least. Tenth or two here, just, by turn 1. But he got through there nice and smoothly. Second gear into on. Missed the apex a little bit. You want to use the curb on both sides there. Still, solid run. A decent run in qualifying one. We'll be hoping to replicate a PB again. Nicely through turns 3 and 4 there. It's a nice run. Coming up to the first split, flat out through turn 5. 26.6 in the first split. That is quite a solid start to the lap. Nice and smooth through 6 and 7. This is a good lap so far. Don't want to get ahead of yourself though and outbrake yourself here into turn 8 and 9 like Steve Bolger. Speaking of Bolger, he's half a second up in the first split. So he's able to hustle these F3 cars around in qualifying. 58.2 for Whitmore to second split. Carrying a bit of speed through the hairpin, so good lap from him so far. Just cut back to Steve Bolger, 57.2, so he's up by quite a distance, another 4 tenths. Another 4 tenths up over Wayne Whitmore. So he's looked like he's going to set a cracking lap barring mistake. But still, Whitmore's put together a solid lap. Not going to be the best, but it's not going to be the worst either. So he's going to cross the line, 35.6. So couldn't match his time in qualifying 1, but still a solid banker. Bolger losing about a tenth or so in that final sector, but he goes P1 on a 35.1. Brownie P3, 38.2. I've had River Whisper jump up now to P3, 36.4. And now we've got Turmo Bouts across the start-finish line. P3, 35.9. So the gap's a little bit further out this time. Driver's not quite as warmed up, as they haven't really had a long practice session, only about 2 minutes before moving over to set this one. The track probably not quite as rubbered up as what it was after practice as well. Glenn Miles out there, but Cracker on a time lap approaching him. Hopefully gets out of the way for Cracker. Didn't look like it hindered Cracker too much, but probably would have cost him a tenth or two. Ooh, looked like he was going to outbrake himself there, but he has made it. Unlike Glenn Miles, we've got Luke Joyner now coming through the final chicane. Luke Joyner crosses the line, 36.5, so I think that's an improvement from him. No, he did set a 35.5, is his personal best around this track, but still, compared to how other people have dropped time, that's not too bad. Currently P5, but we've still got a few drivers to set a time. They've got Cracker now coming up to the final chicane. Tentative through the final chicane, didn't carry too much speed. It's going to cross the line, it's going to be 37.9, so he jumps up in front of Brownie. It's 6/10 faster than Brownie in the last sector alone. So you see now Glenn Miles starting his lap. Only driver on a time lap. Oh, and he's locked up badly into turn 1. Managed to bring back onto the track. Now up to turn 3. Very conservative. Very slow. Want to be carrying a lot more speed through both those corners. And again, not flat through turn 5, so very conservative. He has been told a few drivers that that corner is flat, but still doesn't want to put his foot down. And he's 7.5 seconds down at the first split. Again, you want to carry a little bit more speed through there, but it's better through there than a few of the other corners that we've seen so far. Actually quite quick into the hairpin there. One of his better corners around the track. If he carried speed like that and broke like that throughout a lot of the other corners on the track, he'd probably find himself a lot quicker, but just doesn't quite have the confidence to push himself. Ooh, a lot of curb on both sides of the chicane. So it doesn't spin it, keeps it going. Actually stopped before, started braking before the finish line. Don't know why. He must have had a track cut, because once again, his time does not count. But his time to the first two splits did. So all down to taking too much curb there at the first and second chicane. Now we've got Brendan Ross going out onto the circuit, and Ricky Slick, as you can see, in behind, about to start his lap. So they've got 2 minutes to get around and start their lap. They should get it done. Leaving it once again to the death of the session to get a lap in, and for more rubber to be put down by their competitors as well. Oh, and I've seen Brendan Ross already centered around. And it's got nothing on the dash. He stalled it. He's had to get it going again. And he stalled it again. So he's obviously not using auto clutch. He's going to have to pull the clutch in, turn her on, and get it going again. Hey, there we go. Gets it going. So Ricky Slick will... In fact, that might make it a bit difficult, actually, for Brendan Ross to set a lap and spin. That would cost him about 15 seconds. And he was already pushing, and he's got minute 10 to get around the rest of the lap. So he's going to be quite tight. So he should be driving at 100% speed if he wants to make the lap. Slick's not going to have to worry. Make it quite comfortably, but Brendan Ross might be a little bit tight for him. Last sector, decent last sector being about 37-38 seconds. He got to the second split line about 40 seconds, so he should cross the line with about 40 seconds remaining, should Brendan Ross. So we'll keep an eye on that. As Ricky Slick starts his lap. In fact, we're right on board the Confederate. Oh, and he's missed the apex and outbroke himself just a little bit for turn 2 there. It's going to cost him a little bit of time. Second for turns 3 and 4. Nice exit using all the revs available. And Brendan Ross looks like his lap has started. He's down by just under 1/10 of a second. He's Ricky Slick, but he has given himself a good start to that to build upon. Making about 90 metres there. Turn 8, nicely through turn 8-9 chicane there. Nice and smooth so far, and he's up by the same amount he was down by in the first sector. Purple in the middle sector. 10th faster, about 10th and a half faster than everybody else. We've got Brendan Ross now coming up to the second split, so we'll cut to him and see where he ends up in this split. Down by half a second, so he's made a mistake somewhere. As we see Ricky Slick now come up to the final chicane. This is where he's lost time first qualifying session. So all the road, a little bit of a graze of the wall, a little bit picking up a little bit of grass there. In fact, it's going to be a very good lap, a 34.2, so he found a lot of time there in that final sector. Must have picked up a bit of time in the hairpin, but he did push it at the chicane. He finds himself with the second best lap of the evening. You see Brendan Ross hit the wall of champions there. He hasn't got any damage. It would have cost him a bit of time. It's going to cross the line and go P3. So he found, I reckon, a little bit of time with the chicane, but still, yeah, 3/10 faster than Bolger in the final sector there. But yeah, that middle sector, he must have had a mistake somewhere, and that's where he lost all his time. To both himself, well, to both Bolger and to Ricky Slick in front. So once again, just to recap the qualifying result, we've got Ricky Slick on pole with Steve Bolger once again joining him on the front row. Then we've got Brendan Ross in third, Whitmore in fourth, Termo fifth, River Whisper in sixth, Luke Joyner seventh, Cracker eighth, Brownie ninth, and Glenn Miles unable to settle time with that track cut at the final chicane. He will start last, but on a positive note, he will start first for the reverse grid race in race 3. Alright, but with it ticking over, we'll take a short break, but we shall be back shortly. And welcome back. Got 2 minutes left in the warm-up session. Haven't had too much action out there at the moment. I do apologise for taking a break. Did need to just grab a little snack and have a little bit of a drink. But yeah, still 2 minutes to go in the warm-up session. Steve Bulge out there circulating 35.4. He'll be hoping to probably go a little bit quicker than that in the race, but he'll also be hoping just to be that bit more consistent, as that is something that has come up quite often for him. He's had the pace to win races, just can't quite do it lap after lap. But he has looked quite handy around here, so he'll be hoping to be a bit smoother and take it a little bit more easy on those rear tyres and make those couple less mistakes and get a better start, and he'll be right. Come through turn 7 and 8 there. Track looking completely different with the shadows in a different area, with it being 9 o'clock in the morning in the warm-up session. And it looks like he's very consistent on this lap compared to his fastest lap, within a 10th in the first and second sectors there. What can he do here in the final sector? Probably didn't turn it in as well as he would have liked, but still quite nice through the chicane. And this is going to be a quite handy lap, I reckon. There it is, couple tenths. Yeah, so found about 3/10 of a second in that final sector there. 35.2. I don't believe the track will be as rubbered up. Oh no, probably is actually the same, because we did have to reset the server shortly before the race, or before race 1, as there were some server settings that weren't quite correct. So I think the track will be probably is about the same. Perhaps he's made some changes to make that car just a little bit more stable and to get him around the track a little bit quicker as well towards the end of the race. But time has expired. Just waiting now for it to tick over, and race 2 of the evening will be underway. Alright, ticked over to the race session now. Just waiting for all the drivers to form up and we can begin the formation lap for race 2 of the evening. Or race 8 of the season. In round 3 in Montreal. Ricky Slick will lead us away. In his now notorious rust bucket livery and Confederate / American flag helmet. Steve Bolger joining him on the front row once again, with Brendan Ross and Wayne Whitmore 3rd and 4th. And Turmo was in 2nd for quite a lot of that race. In race 1 there, start from 5th position. He did have a cracking start in the first race as well. That's what elevated him to initially 3rd position, and then he got past Steve Bolger early on in the first race before falling away right at the death. Still, not bad effort from him in the first race. He'll start 5th this time out. River Whisper, he'll start in P6. And Luke Joyner will start alongside him. got Cracker will start in P8 with Brownie in the Red Bull liveried F3 car. He'll start in P9, and he's not dropped out this time, which is good to see. And we've got Glenn Miles starting once again at the back. But just a reminder, the results from the qualifying 2 session will be used for the reverse grid race for race 3. So Ricky Slick will start from 10th in that race. Bolger will start 9th, and Ross in 8th. Whitmore 7th. Tomo. Well, I'll probably mix that up, but anyway, you get the idea. That will be on the other end of the grid. So they come out of the hairpin. Drivers once again. Oh, except for Tomo. Everybody furiously warming their tyres up. Well, actually, still a couple of drivers just a bit conservative, not really warming the tyres too much. So it must have worked for Tomo in the first race there. Not warming your tyres too much. Off the start line, but even still he's warming his tyres up just a little bit. So it will be interesting to see how drivers handle the second race now that they've been through one race of the evening. Perhaps slight tweaks to setups to straighten their cars up just a little bit, make it a little bit more race friendly, as opposed to just having the fastest outright car. Some guys may be trying to get their car just a little bit faster for the second race. It looks like drivers are forming up a lot quicker this time out. Just waiting on Brownie, looks like, out the back there. But we're just about to get underway. Someone must be just out of position. The game's still waiting for him here. There we go. Glenn Miles now into position. 3 lights, 2 lights, 1 light. Away we go. Looks like Bolger once again got the good initial start. We saw last time out that Ricky Slick got a better run into turn 1 though. He will hold the lead. Brendan Ross remains in P3, but he's got Turmo trying to go around the long way at turn 2, but not quite the corner to do it. But very, very close to Brendan Ross in front, who's very, very close to Steve Bolger in front. You see the field stream through the turn 3 and 4 chicane. But Ricky Slick 8/10 out in front. It's a little bit of a gap. And then Bolger, Ross, Turmo very close together. We've got Joyner's got in front of Wayne Whitmore. See Ross having a look on the inside at Steve Bolger into the turn 8 and 9 chicane. Side's better of it. But Turmo just behind, keeping a watching eye as well. And looks like Bolger getting a little bit of time there at the hairpin compared to Ricky Slick. Said that I think Ricky Slick's actually got a better exit looking at that onboard. Brendan Ross has got an even better exit because he's right in the slipstream of Bolger, and he should get the move done into the final chicane at 13 and 14. Doesn't break as late as Bolger. Bolger's going to run wide over the sleeping policeman, and he's locked the back end, and Turmo did a good job avoiding. No contact through all of that. Just Bolger getting a little bit too hot there, defending his position, trying to hold on around the outside. And that drops him down to P6. He's now got Brownie right behind him. And that elevates not only Brendan Ross, but also Turmo, Luke Joyner, and Wayne Whitmore. Whitmore dropping down a spot from where he started. He's got to find a way past Luke Joyner in P4. Joyner having jumped up an impressive 3 spots in front of both Whitmore and Bolger, and Bolger's got a decent exit out of turn 4. Whitmore not so. It's given Luke Joyner just a little bit of breathing room. We've got the yellow flags out somewhere, so someone's... Oh, that's Brownie. Brownie's gone round at turn 6, I believe. I do believe we have been joined in the commentary box by Josh Ben. That's alright, it's good to have you along. And let's Certainly make my job a bit easier this time around. There he is, and they're both. Looks like Bolger might have had even a little bit of a double toe, and they're going to try and go 3 wide into the final chicane. Bolger up the inside, up onto the sleeping policeman on both sides. It's a real car. I'm pretty sure it had a pretty short backside after that, but to Sim, so he'll be all right. That's allowed Whitmore to hold on to P5. Whitmore at the same time, he's trying to get past Luke Joyner and set his sights on Turmo, who's starting to get away. He's 4.5 seconds or so up the road. Well, it's lost a good 9/10 of a second to Turmo in P3 in front of him, so that's just how much slower Luke Joyner is compared to. Well, it really is the front three, as Whitmore outbroke himself a little bit but made the chicane. Luke Joyner cut the chicane, and that's moved Bolger up in front. They're going to go 3. Oh, they were going to go 3 wide for a second there into the hairpin. But Bolger now up the inside of Joyner, and Whitmore, he wants to get inside as well. 3 wide on the exit. It's like Joyner right in the slipstream. And Bolger, he wants to get P4 back. Behind him, there's Wayne Whitmore keeping a watching eye as well. Might be smarter for Whitmore actually just to sit back and watch these guys battle for a little bit and try and swoop on both of them if he can. So a little bit of a lock up there for Joyner on the sleeping policeman. You see Ricky Slick's at the fastest race lap of the evening so far. But that has compromised Joyner a little bit, and Whitmore going to try and make a move into turn 1. Doesn't quite make it stick. Sort of half-heartedly made the move and didn't run into the side of Joyner, thankfully, but he must be mighty frustrated being stuck behind him because he is faster. The top 5 cars, or fastest cars, are Ricky Slick, Brendan Ross, Turmo, Steve Bolger, and Wayne Whitmore, all pretty close together on pace, but Whitmore hasn't had the greatest start in either of the races so far, and it's hurting his chances quite a bit. Making a move, and that's Turmo around, and there's Luke Joyner with him. Oh, and Whitmore just moving, or Cracker just avoiding Whitmore as he spun himself around there. So he has got past Luke Joyner, but unfortunately they both had a half spin, as has Turmo, who had to sit there for a while to let other cars pass, and he's now warming his tyres just to get him back up to temperature again. But yeah, mighty frustrating first 2 races so far for Whitmore, and he'll have to work his way past River Whisper and Cracker now, but his chance of a podium pretty much already shot after 4 laps. But Ricky Slick looking quite handy at the moment, 1.2 seconds over Ross, which haven't really seen too much of so far, but looks like Ross is starting to just edge a little bit closer as the race progresses. But both of them comfortably in the mid-34s, which is significantly faster than everybody else at the moment. So these guys have found a bit of pace from the first race. So both of them were sort of high 34s, low 35s. And these guys now comfortably at half a second a lap faster so far through the first half of this race. I don't think we saw too much of the first race because in the first race it was Brendan Ross. He was pretty much drifting around a lot of the corners on the exits. But I think this race with Ricky Slick, he's having to push a little bit harder, and that's why we're seeing that back end just step out a little bit on the exits of these chicanes and hairpins, because he's having to drive it just that bit harder as Brendan Ross continues to just edge a bit closer. That gap was 9/10 at the second split. I reckon it's about half a second now as they're about to cross the start-finish line. There it is, fastest lap 34.1. That is the second fastest lap of the evening so far, but Brendan Ross outbroke himself just a little bit into turn 1 there, so that's going to cost him a little bit of time. But these guys now 9.5 seconds in front over Steve Bolger, who set a 35.2 on that lap. And he's got 7 seconds over River Whisper. And River Whisper's got 3 seconds over Cracker, and there's another 3-second gap, or there was a 3-second gap between Cracker and Whitmore, but not anymore. It's now cigarette paper, so we'll stick with these guys for a little while. As hopefully, for Wayne Whitmore's case, he'll find a way past Cracker and move on to his next target. Whitmore in that last lap at 36.3. And I think Cracker got a track cut because he didn't have a lap time come up. And ooh, coming out of turn 7 there, bit of a twitch, under power there, and that's going to allow Wayne Whitmore up into 5th now. That said though, Cracker on the inside. Doesn't quite make the move stick. And Whitmore now definitely up into 5th place. And he did so without losing too much time with that mistake from Cracker behind. And had Brendan Ross set a purple middle sector, 30.7. He's trying to make up for that little mistake he made at turn 1. Losses the line, 34.6. Didn't match the fastest final sector that he set last time out, but still quite quick. But he did lose time actually to Ricky Slick, about 3/10 faster in the final sector. It's very twitchy on the exit of turn 2. There is Brendan Ross. Both these guys very aggressive with their right foot on the exit of corners. We did see that in race 1, that caught Steve Bolger out of the exit of turn 2, just a little bit too aggressive, and it spun him around. Very easy to do in these cars, and at a circuit like this where traction is paramount, you don't want to be spinning your rear wheels up too much. Yeah, we did see Turmo was another one in that first race. He was another one that early on in the race, I think, he was drifting around out of the final chicane and out of the hairpin, and towards the end of the race it did sort of come back to bite him. He just struggled for grip towards the end of the race and allowed Brendan Ross through and to nip P2 on the last lap. So you do want to be smooth. Even though they're short races, the tyre wear does accumulate, and it will hurt towards the end of these short 60k races. Well, in the first race he did a pretty good job of just getting out of the way of our front runners. It's just all about where these guys catch him, because he's quite a bit slower, unfortunately, around this track than a lot of others. So, yeah, unfortunately, they can catch him in a wrong area, and it's balked both Ricky Slick and Brendan Ross. But, yeah, does get out of the way, but yeah, he's quite slow at the moment, is Glenn Miles. People have been trying to help him out, but yeah, he just can't quite find the pace, and unfortunately blocking out 2 leaders fortunately didn't affect track position for either of these 2 drivers, but it certainly did not help Ricky Slick one iota. Damage isn't at 100%, so you will see drivers do lean on the walls just a little bit around here. And so these cars still are pretty sensitive, so you don't want to hit them the wrong way. And Ricky Slick, he's had a pretty good exit out of the hairpin, and in fact just extended a little bit of a gap over Brendan Ross. both of them pretty decent run through the final chicane. Yeah, I think Slick, he was quite good on his rear tyres in the first race, and I think he's just a little bit straighter on the exits compared to Ross in this one as well. I think his driving style just suiting this track a little bit better. And it will be interesting to see with obviously 3 bit laps to go, if Ross can pressure Slick enough to get alongside in front. At this stage, Slick has been quite cool and calm about it all. I see. Alright. Alright, hopefully... Oh, that's just duplicated me. Alright, no, that's not it either. Sorry about this, guys. Just trying to sort out some audio stuff. And it's not quite working. No, that's not it. Damn it. Oh dear. Alright, well, I think... yeah, we'll sort it out between races. I do apologise, guys. Josh Ben is in here, but yeah, just unfortunate sound issues due to headset updates causing OBS issues once again. Still got Ross and Slick battling it out. Half a second between them. They've got 12.5 seconds over Bolger, and Whitmore has found himself in front of Turmo, and up into P4. Turmo in P5, both in the 35s that time around. But all the battling going around. So Whitmore's gone around at turn 2. And that will allow Turmo up into P4. And it might even... Yes, it will. Yes, Whitmore not really watching that there was a car coming and just moving right into the path, unfortunately, of Cracker. Cracker does get going. Hasn't lost a wing, but it might have damaged his suspension. Whitmore now down to P8. With that mistake, and Cracker down to P7, and that moves Luke Joyner up to P6, River Whisper now up to P5, Turbo up to P4. But the big battle now is between Ricky Slick and Brendan Ross for the lead. And closest battle on track at the moment. It's been going all race long, except for really the first couple of laps, but Ross has cut it back ever so slightly. Gap at the hairpin was 0.3 of a second, but it has once again. Ricky Slick seems to be very good coming out of the hairpin and through the final chicane. Getting at 0.7 as they cross the line. Coming up to some more lap traffic. I believe that's Brownie that they're coming across. He's 1 minute 30 behind these guys, so it must be him. So Ross has only got a lap and 3/4 remaining to get a move done. But he left it late to get past Turmo in race 1. He's going to have to do it once again in race 2. Hopefully Brownie doesn't cause any issues between these two. Slick a bit slow there through 6 and 7. It's allowed Ross to close in just a little bit. He'll have a little bit of a tow coming into 8 and 9. Again, Slick just missing the apex, but Ross getting it sideways on the exit at 9. So that time that he would have gained with Slick missing the apex, pretty much lost. Looks like he gained a little bit under braking. Brownie getting well out of the way for the leaders, just good to see. Might even give, yes, it will give Ross just a little bit of a slipstream. But once again, Ricky Slick is supreme coming out of the hairpin. And he's able to just to extend his lead coming out of there. Well, Ross just a little bit conservative maybe. Has gained it up just a little bit under braking for the chicane. But Ricky Slick is supreme out of the hairpin. He's just got to hold on really until that hairpin. 34.8 for Ross. 35.1 for Slick. The cigarette paper between them now. 1 lap to go. Slick quite handy through the chicane. Looks like he's edged just a little bit more of a gap through the first part of this lap. But Ross will get the slipstream down this back straight and into the hairpin, barring mistake. A little bit of a shift there from Slick. It hasn't cost him too much time. Doesn't outbrake himself at the chicane this time, but Ross very aggressive. A lot of curve, gets it sideways. I think he might have even grazed the wall on the exit there, but he is much closer than he was before the chicane. But it's all going to be about the exit of the hairpin now. Bit of a wider line for Ricky Slick. He's able to get on the power earlier, and a bit of a slide for Brendan Ross. And I reckon that might be race over, barring mistake. And Ricky Slick nice and smooth. He's taking care of his rear tyres. Even though we see Brendan Ross just swerving all over the place, just trying to put Ricky Slick off. Should see Ricky Slick come out of the final chicane, which he does. Even though Ross was quite a bit faster through it, it won't mean nothing, because Ricky Slick will come home and take 2 from 2 so far in Canada. Brendan Ross will take second in both the races so far. And, well, they've got a massive gap to Steve Bolger in third place, 22 seconds at the moment. Looking at his splits, he's made a mistake in the middle sector, 40.0 compared to mid-31s for everybody else. He'll finish in third. And as you can see, not too pleased, but still he managed to get onto the podium. Turmo will finish in P4. River Whisper will take P5. And that is Luke Joyner behind him. He'll take P6. So those guys not the quickest, but they didn't make too many mistakes either. Cracker will finish in P7 after that contact with Wayne Whitmore, who had a spin and was running in 4th position at the time. So he's had an absolutely shocking round, has Wayne Whitmore. And Brownie will finish in P9, a lap down. And Glenn Miles without a front wing. Must have done it at the start of the lap, because 57 seconds in the first section, 40 in the middle, would suggest he's had a problem somewhere. But he's going to try and finish without a front wing, even though he's already a lap down. He hasn't crossed the start-finish line yet to finish. But we'll cut to Ricky Slick doing some doughies with Brendan Ross also there, down there at the hairpin, showing off for the fans. But just to go over the results once again, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, it is Ricky Slick taking 2 from 2. Brendan Ross in 2nd place. Steve Bolger 3rd. Turbo 4th. River Whisper in 5th place. Luke Joyner 6th. Cracker 7th. Whitmore in 8th. Brownie 9th. And Glenn Miles in 10th place. With that, we'll take a short break as I sort out the grid and hopefully sort out the sound issues, so we can listen to Josh Ben give out some expert advice. So we shall be back shortly.